Network Africa. Power cuts reported in Tunisia, where citizens are complaining under sweltering heat. Uganda's health minister says the country is now Ebola-free. Plus, Algeria's parliament elects its first ever woman speaker. Welcome to the program, one and all. I am Amarachi Uvani. We begin with the impact of the power cuts in Tunisia. As temperatures rise in recent weeks, the electricity company has resorted to rolling blackouts to reduce the strain on the power grid. Farm workers are complaining the power cuts have led to the loss of thousands of chickens and heavily impacted working conditions. Dairy farms have been impacted as well. Workers have had to throw out milk. One farmer said they had to dump 6 days' worth of milk, which comes to about 1,200 liters, which is a huge loss for the farm and for the business. Thousands of people have been protesting, however, the situation in recent days, denouncing President Kais Said's rule and demanding action over rising cost of living, as well as the repeated electricity and water cuts in the intense summer heat wave. Protesters have also been demanding better public services and the release of political detainees. President Said dissolved parliament and introduced a new constitution shortly after taking over power 5 years ago. He has defended his action, saying the measures were necessary to fight corruption and end years of political paralysis. Well, here in West Africa, Ghana's national power grid is said to have triggered widespread outages, leaving the capital Accra, the commercial hub of Kumasi, and much of the north without electricity. Several power plants across the country were forced to shut down earlier today. The state-run power distribution company saying in a statement, "Our engineers and system operators are working continuously to restore power in the shortest time possible without compromising safety." Now, today's power cuts left homes, businesses, and essential services without electricity across multiple regions of the country. Many commuters had problems getting to work, as those whose phones were not charged had difficulty paying for transport, and in some cases ordering taxis via apps such as Uber. It's also affected small businesses, people relying on digital services, though big institutions such as hospitals tend to have backup generators. Gridco said it was conducting a comprehensive technical investigation to determine the outage's cause. Meanwhile, President John Mahama has called for stronger African economic integration and closer regional security cooperation. He made the call as he hosted the Gabonese President Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema in Accra for talks on trade, investment, and the Gulf of Guinea security. President Mahama used the visit to position Ghana as a driver of continental integration, highlighting the role of the African Continental Free Trade Area, whose secretariat is headquartered in Accra. The visit comes as African leaders intensify efforts to accelerate implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the world's largest free trade zone by number of participating countries.
Ghana is committed to advancing intra-African trade, industrialization, and economic integration. We look forward to working closely with Gabon to ensure that our businesses, our investors, and more importantly, our citizens are able to benefit fully from the vast opportunities offered by the African continental market. Our discussions today offer a valuable opportunity to identify concrete areas of cooperation that will translate our shared aspirations into tangible benefits for our people. Trade and investment must remain central to this agenda. We should encourage stronger partnership between our private sectors. We should facilitate investment flows and create an enabling environment for businesses in both countries to collaborate in the areas of manufacturing, agribusiness, transport and logistics, infrastructure development, financial services, and value addition. Furthermore, as maritime nations bordering the Gulf of Guinea, Ghana and Gabon have a shared interest in promoting maritime security, combating piracy and illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, protecting the marine ecosystem, and advancing the blue economy as a driver of inclusive and sustainable growth. Your Excellency, I'm confident that today's discussion will enable us to explore new avenues of cooperation and deepen the excellent relations that already exist between Ghana and Gabon. More importantly, they will help position our two countries as stronger partners in advancing regional integration, economic transformation, and sustainable development across our continent.
Ghana's President John Mahama was saying with regional integration, the Nigeria Customs Service says it is considering a smarter and more technology-driven approach to border management as part of efforts to boost trade facilitation and strengthen border security. To achieve this, the service plans to replicate the modern Bait Bridge border post between Zimbabwe and South Africa at the Seme border with Benin Republic and the MFUM border with and Mfum border with Cameroon. Comptroller General of Customs Bashir Adini stated this during the Nigeria Customs Service Public Relations Week held in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. He says Nigeria Customs Service is positioning itself to meet the demands of an increasingly connected global trading environment.
The border between Zimbabwe and South Africa. It's a joint border where you have a one-stop border post that services Zimbabwe and South Africa. It's reputed to be the best in terms of how long and how much it takes to conduct cross-border movement of goods between Zimbabwe and South Africa. And it's said to have reduced travel costs and the cost of business there by as much as 50%. And Afrexim Bank and ACFTA bought into that dream. And in the last 1 month, we've been working together. And now they have agreed that they are sponsoring a benchmarking mission to that bridge.
Back in Ghana, there's been an outpouring of grief following the death of the country's tallest man, Sulemana Abdul Samed. The 33-year-old, whose height made him somewhat of a celebrity, died in hospital in Tamale on Monday. He'd been admitted for sores on his legs that had become infected. This was not connected to Marfan syndrome, but likely to be complications caused by his condition. Diagnosed with giantism in his 20s, he was 7 feet 4 inches tall when measured by the BBC in late 2022. He had likely grown taller before his death. Known to everyone by his nickname Awuche, which means let's go in the Hausa language, he had long struggled with complications of Marfan syndrome, the genetic disorder which resulted in his extremely long limbs. He had also struggled to pay his medical bills, but recently found a benefactor in the brother of Ghana's President John Mahama, who also met the giant of Gambaga. Ibrahim Mahama had offered to cover his medical bills at Tamale Teaching Hospital earlier this month. Good news from Uganda, whose health minister, Chris Bayomunsi, says is now Ebola-free. Bayomunsi credited health workers, local authorities, and communities for helping to contain the outbreak. He did, however, say that despite the declaration, Uganda will remain on high alert because of the ongoing Ebola outbreak in neighboring DRC.
Minister of Health is pleased to announce that Uganda has officially declared the end of 2026 Ebola disease outbreak. So today, as we speak now, Uganda is Ebola free. We equally thank our frontline health workers, district local governments, community health workers, security agencies, communities, you, the media, researchers, partners, and all Ugandans for your relentless hard work and sacrifice. You count 42 days because the incubation period of Ebola is 21 days. When you get infected, you can develop symptoms in a period of 2 to 21 days. So we usually count 2 cycles of incubation period. And why you are counting those days is that you are suspecting that there could be local transmission going on, which you have not detected. So within 42 days, if there was an infection somewhere in the country, it will have come out through symptoms. You must be informed by science. This is not witchcraft. This is science. The reason why we count 42 days is that you are looking at the last case you discharged. Did that case expose some people to a risk? And in the case there is some risk exposed, then you give it time for it to emerge through symptoms.
We have got our facilities around the border that have been there before that are treating all diseases routinely. But also, whenever we get Ebola, depending on where the epicenter is, we adjust our services in a way that we enhance the capacity of those facilities around the epicenter. Right now, our epicenter was in DRC, and therefore we had to build more capacity in the facilities around the border.
Speaking of the DRC, confirmed Ebola cases in the country have now reached 3,262, according to its Ministry of Health, nearly the same as the 2018 to 2020 outbreak that is the largest ever recorded in the country. Data from the Congolese Health Ministry show that 1,437 patients have died out of the 3,062 cases in what officials have said is the fastest Ebola outbreak on record, concentrated in the eastern Ituri province. The 2018 to 2020 outbreak that was recorded in Congo and neighboring Uganda lasts roughly 2 years, with more than 3,400 reported cases, including over 2,200 deaths, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Only the 2014 to 2016 outbreak across West Africa, considered the worst in history, had a higher toll, with 28,000 cases and more than 11,000 deaths. The speed of transmission of the current outbreak comes amid concern from residents that many communities in the affected provinces are either unreachable or have been abandoned by responders in recent days over safety concerns amid attacks from angry residents and rebels. Well, staying in the DRC, the country's constitutional court has approved a controversial referendum law the critics say could pave the way for President Felix Tshisekedi to seek a third term in office. In a ruling announced on state television, the court said the proposed legislation complies with the Constitution. The law would allow the president to amend the Constitution through a constituent assembly following a referendum in the event of what it describes as a major dysfunction of state institutions. However, the judges raised concerns over provisions that would have allowed the president to call a referendum on any issue considered to be of fundamental importance. The bill was passed by Parliament in June, where President Tshisekedi's coalition holds a comfortable majority. It now awaits the president's signature before becoming law. Under the current constitution, the president is limited to 2 5-year terms, with President Tshisekedi's second and final mandate due to end in 2028. The constitution also states that the presidential term limits cannot be revised. Although Tshisekedi has repeatedly denied seeking a third term, he said in May he would accept another mandate if requested by the Congolese people. Let's check in on the situation in Sudan, where 23 children have reportedly been killed, with a further 25 reportedly injured in North Kordofan. The latest incident occurred on Friday, July 24, in the Berber area to the south of Al Obeid, where at least 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, aged between the ages of 8 and 16, were reportedly killed. Now, this brings the total number of children reportedly killed or injured in July to at least 8. It comes after reports that at least 10 children were killed or injured in May, and at least 30 children were killed or injured in June, with the youngest child affected just 2 months old. Across Sudan, children bear the brunt of more than 3 years of conflict. In the first 6 months of the year, At least 330 children were reportedly killed or injured. Ongoing violence, repeated displacement, and damage to civilian infrastructure are putting children's lives, well-being, and future at risk. UNICEF calls on all parties to protect civilians, including children, and to uphold their obligations under international humanitarian law. We're off on a short break now on Network Africa. Still ahead. 14-year-old boy from Delta State in Nigeria becomes World Spelling Bee champion. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's the Watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Gabon and Equatorial Guinea have signed an agreement ending a decades-long dispute over 3 tiny islands in potentially oil-rich waters after the top UN court backed Malabo. The 2 West African nations had been squabbling over the 30-hectare island of Mambini and 2 smaller low-lying islets, Cocotier and Konga, since the early 1970s. In May last year, the International Court of Justice in The Hague, which rules in disputes between states, found in favor of Equatorial Guinea. At a ceremony at the African Union's headquarters in Addis Ababa, Equatorial Guinean Foreign Minister Simeon Oyono Essono Ange and Gabon's head of the Constitutional Council, Jodion Abba Owono, signed the accord committing both countries to respect the ICJ's decision. AU Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, who also signed the agreement, welcomed the resolution of a border dispute that he said had gone on for too long. Now, Algeria's parliament has elected its first ever woman speaker, making Halida Boufetche the 4th highest ranking official in the country. Boufetche, an allergist by training who represents the capital Algiers, is a member of the National Liberation Front, the historic party of Algerian independence and allied with the current government. Well, the party, the FLN, was the biggest winner in parliamentary elections earlier this month, securing 91 of the body's 407 seats. The vote was marked by the lowest turnout ever at 21%. Boufetche is a member of her party's Central Committee and had served in local politics before entering parliament. She assumes the speakership of a body where women are significantly underrepresented, holding just 25 seats or 6% of the total. The previous parliament had 38 women members, and the one before had 118, following the 2017 elections, which are held under a quota system. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has arrived for an official visit and discussions with the head of Mali's military junta. Both are expected to talk about security situation, military cooperation, as well as freight transport. Mali imports a significant part of its goods through the port of Dakar, but for several months transport has been hampered due to jihadist attacks. Earlier this year, Mali's authorities announced they had partnered with armed forces in Niger and Burkina Faso to launch airstrikes against jihadists. President Assimi Goïta has ruled Mali since 2021 when he came into power in a military coup. So thousands of people have poured into the city of El Obeid in Sudan, hoping to find shelter from the country's raging civil war. They've also found themselves under threat again, amid warnings that paramilitary fighters are preparing to descend on the army-controlled city. Clashes between the paramilitary rapid support forces and the military has escalated in the North Kordofan region, a critical target for both sides of the conflict, which could open a gateway into contested territory. Displaced people have flocked to El Obeid, which remains heavily defended by the Sudanese military, despite ongoing strikes being carried out on the city as paramilitary forces advance. The UN's International Organization for Migration says it's become a key refuge for people escaping ongoing violence in the surrounding areas. The UN and G7 foreign ministers have now issued warnings that the RSF may be preparing to attack the city, raising fears that atrocities akin to those seen during the massacre in El Fasher could be repeated. Thousands of people were killed in mass executions after the paramilitary overran the SAF troops defending the city last October in one of the worst atrocities since the civil war began in 2023. Two historic plantation sites in Sao Tome and Principe have been added now to UNESCO's World Heritage List, recognizing their cultural significance and complex colonial history. The Rosas Agostino Neto and Sao João dos Agoleres are part of a wider network of colonial agricultural estates that shaped the island's economy through coffee and cocoa production, but also reflected a painful history of forced labor and migration. The decision was announced during the UNESCO World Heritage Committee meeting in Busan, South Korea, where countries submitted dozens of nominations for inclusion on the prestigious list. The Rosas are the former Portuguese plantation complexes combining farmland, industrial facilities, housing areas, and social infrastructure. 6 major plantations are included in the site: Monte Café, Ague Ize, Diogo Vaz, Sao João, Sunny, and Belo Monte. Together, they represent a unique plantation system that transformed Sao Tome and Principe into a major producer of coffee and cocoa during the colonial era. Beyond their architectural and agricultural importance, the sites also preserve the memory of thousands of workers who were brought to the island under harsh conditions during Portuguese rule. Back here in Nigeria, celebrations galore in Delta State as the governor of the South states of Nigeria, Sheriff Oboroweri, has rewarded 14-year-old world spelling bee champion Great Okediachi with 20 million naira for winning the World Spelling Bee Championship in China. The governor says the feat reflects the state's investment in education and it brings pride to Delta State and to Nigeria.
From the national and African champion to world winner, 14-year-old Great Chinedu Okediachi completes a remarkable run, clinching the World Spelling Bee title in China after outspelling competitors from several countries. After conquering the world, the champion arrives at the Delta State Government House in Asaba with officials of Madonna International School and the Ministry of Secondary Education. Here, he officially presents his trophy to Governor Sheriff Oboroweri, marking the end of months of preparation, discipline, and hard work that led to his global win. Great speaks about his journey to success.
It was not just Nigeria, Africa, it was all the continents, was the world stage. So I was actually very happy and I was very excited because I knew that I did my country well, I did my family.
For his coach, Obiosa Ijoma, many more global achievements await the champion.
This year, there was state qualifiers that he automatically qualified for. But he came to me and said, "Sir, I don't want to be handed out this. I want to contest in the state qualifiers again to earn my place in the nationals." So before this time, we were going to war for him to represent Delta State again in this year's nationals.
The governor praises his performance, saying it shows Delta's sustained investment in education is producing globally competitive students.
Master Great Chinedu Okediachi has brought this cup, the World Cup of Spelling Bee, to us in Delta State. It shows that our investment in education is working, not only building infrastructure with our education, we are laying a very good foundation for our youth. And this is one of the examples.
It's a celebratory mood at Great's home in Asaba as his parents speak about the support and sacrifices behind his success. They praise Governor Oboroweri for the 20 million naira reward, describing it as a motivation for students and proof of the state's commitment to education.
We just started, know that by God's grace, we will go and appreciate Governor, to go and tell him thank you for the one he has done. And this is not the end of saying my son. Know that by God's grace, more things are coming that also make us to see the Governor one-on-one and also have a good handshake with him and thank him for what he done to the family and for the boy and for the school.
Great, the youngest of 6 children, had shown a strong passion for learning and exceptional spelling ability from an early age. So this feat did not come as a surprise to family and friends and his school community, who were confident that his consistency will continue to set him apart.
And as we end Network Africa today, here's our fun fact for Wednesday. Did you know that Algeria is not only the largest country in Africa, but is also home to the world's 3rd largest mosque? Known as the Great Mosque of Algiers, it features a capacity for 120,000 worshippers and has the world's tallest minaret, standing at 265 meters high with an observation deck. Algeria covers 2 million square kilometers, making it the 10th largest nation globally. About 80% of the land is desert, but only a small fraction is sandy dunes, much of it being rocky plateaus and mountains. And now you know. Thanks for watching Network Africa. I'm Amarachi Ubani.